Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you today? Ready for some news stories from Askalawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP's parents, who demand OP shares her grandma's inheritance with her sister. But they forget what horrible secret they have been keeping from OP. Listen to the story, guys, to find out, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 22 female, recently lost my paternal grandma, and I'm heartbroken. The first 8 years of my life, she was my primary caregiver because my parents both worked full-time, and we shared a special bond. During summer, I hadn't washed my hands properly and accidentally stained one of her books she had. It was part of a collection that she had started when she was a little girl, and I got really scared. I cried, thinking my grandmother would hate me, and hid the book. When my parents picked me up, I told them what I had done, and they said they would handle it. Later, they sat me and my sister, 18 female, down and told us that Grandma decided that she didn't want to be a grandparent anymore and not be a part of our lives. I thought my grandma was angry about the book and hated me. I was devastated and cried hard and begged my parents to let me see her and apologize. They wouldn't do that and told me it would get better in the future and that I still had my maternal grandma, but it wasn't the same. We moved away not too long after that, and I spent the rest of my formative years worrying that if I ever made a mistake, people would stop loving me. As a teen, I wanted to reach out to her again, but my parents either tried to persuade me not to, or said that they would pass the message along for me, but got no response. Now I know that my parents are the biggest liars on the planet. Turns out that my mom cheated and my sister wasn't my dad's bio kid. In the beginning, my dad was going to leave them both, but decided to stick it out. My grandma wasn't happy, but supported his choice to stay with my mom and would babysit my sister too. But she did not want to take a grandmotherly role in her life. Eventually, my parents gave her an ultimatum. Either she'd be a grandmother to my sister too and love us equally, or she'd never see me again. My grandma called their bluff, and they followed through. All this time, I thought my grandma didn't love me anymore and that I was the cause of it, but it had nothing to do with me. I was furious and moved out a few days later. I finally reached out to her myself, and by then she was sick and died a few months later. I'm glad that we were able to spend some time together and was surprised that she left me some money, like pay off all my student loans, buy a decently used car, and still have some left over. My parents found out and they want me to share it with my sister. I was upset by this and reminded them of the damage they caused me and the years I lost with my grandma, and that the money doesn't make up for it. I told them that just because they put themselves and my sister before me doesn't mean I have to put them before me too, and wasn't going to give her a cent. My parents are calling me petty and selfish, but given the circumstances, it's falling on deaf ears. But on the off chance, am I the a-hole? Edit 2. Okay, just wanted to add in more information because I keep seeing the same question, comments. 1. This isn't about punishing my sister. I know she's innocent in this, and that my mom deserves the majority of the blame. I don't want to share the money because my parents showed no remorse for what they did to me and demanded that I share it. 2. Yes, my sister knows that another man is her bio dad. He and his mother are still alive, so if my sister wanted to, she could have a loving relationship with 2 grandmothers, while mine is still dead. It's basically salt in the wound right now. 3. The affair was discovered before my sister was born, so my grandma didn't just one day stop loving my sister like a granddaughter. She never had that bond in the first place. 4. Of the things my grandma and I talked about was her reluctancy to view my sister as her granddaughter. Her reasoning was that she didn't want to get too attached on the off chance that things went wrong. She did not think my parents' marriage would last, and that's why she called their bluff. 5. For years, my grandmother tried to reach out to me, but my parents refused. It was one of the reasons why we moved, so she couldn't find us or send me letters. Edit 3. 1. Also, again, I told my parents about the book, so they knew that I thought my grandma hated me over it and had no problem letting me live on like that. 2. My sister was around 4 when we stopped seeing my grandma, and she doesn't really remember her, and I honestly think she doesn't care about the relationship, especially since she's closer to our maternal grandmother. OP is definitely not in the wrong here, but her parents, especially her mom, is. She cheated, got pregnant by another man, and passed OP's sister off as OP's full biological sibling. Then lied to OP to make it seem like all of this was OP's fault. What they did is just horrible. OP needs to keep the money to herself and knows she has done nothing wrong. If they think she deserves money, then why not go after her biological father for child support? And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Formal Fist Bump says, "You poor thing, thinking your grandma didn't want to see you anymore because of the book. You must have been racked with guilt when it was stupid adult problems all along." Engineer 2187 says, "Not the a-hole. If your grandmother wanted to leave money to your sister, then she would have. Your parents are major a-holes for not letting you see your grandma for years. If your sister is upset, she should be upset at your mom, not you." Name to Come says, "Not the a-hole. You have done nothing wrong here. Neither has your sister, who sounds like a bystander in all of this. Your parents, however, were grotesquely wrong to lie to you like that. And frankly, I think your grandmother was wrong here too. Her son made a knowing choice to be a father to your sister. She was welcome to disagree, but it's not her place to dictate which of her son's children she felt counted. Lying to you about this, especially in a way which left you feeling responsible, made a bad decision immeasurably worse, and your parents deserve your scorn for that." I, 23 female, am the only one to live at home with my mom for the last 10 years. My oldest sister, Tracy, 40s female, and my full sister, Kat, 30 female, live hours away and haven't visited or seen us when we visited their area the whole 10 years. I don't like them as people, but kept it to myself for our mom's sake. Before Christmas, my mom was diagnosed with late-stage cancer and went downhill from there. I told them the news. Tracy didn't contact either of us after that phone call and didn't reply to any of my texts. Kat called a few times, but never asked Mom how she felt or anything of the sort. She only talked about herself and asked for money. I started working at 14 and went full-time at 16. I've always made sure half of my wage goes to household bills. It's only fair in my opinion. In January, Mom was making arrangements, will included. She said that she could either leave the house to me exclusively or leave me her life insurance money to make sure I got my fair share after contributing. I asked if I could keep my home. I'm not in a position to move, but if they wanted to sell it, they could buy me out for what I paid in, and then have it, but it's not my choice. I didn't know what was in the will. In mid-February, my boyfriend of 8 years died. 2 weeks later, I found out I was 11 weeks pregnant. Mom was excited and offered to go to hospice to make it easier. I said no. She's my mother. Unless she needed more than I could give, I was taking care of her. I did everything I could, but knew it was a matter of time. 3 weeks ago, Mom died at home. Tracy and Kat didn't come to see her once and hadn't spoken to her since she got sick. Kat came to the funeral. Tracy didn't. I wasn't surprised that the first thing Kat did was blame me for Mom being dead. She said if I had gotten rid of my child, I could have done a better job and kept her alive. I just didn't have the time to deal with her, so I walked away and refused to reply. I told them both about the will reading, and surprisingly they came. They were rude to everyone there, and so embarrassing, acting so entitled and spiteful. It eventually came out that Mom left everything to me, my baby, and Tracy's kids, along with a trust that I'm to control for if Kat ever has kids. I didn't feel comfortable being in the room while they glared at me, like I had planned it when I hadn't. I didn't know what it said. We argued. I said if they only turn up when they think they'll get stuff, then they didn't deserve anything at all, and they should think about that before throwing the blame at me. I'll admit, I did react when Kat said she was going to beat the child out of me. I did call the cops. I wanted to protect my body. They told family that I attacked when they asked for a fair share, and caused me a lot of stress. I'm 6 months pregnant, and keep having to defend myself against people calling me an a-hole because I've since refused to share what was given to me. I don't know what to think. Am I the a-hole? I think it's nice that OP's mom split the will among her children according to percentage of care, effort, love, and participation in all things family. Meaning they put in 0 effort and they got 0 rewards. That OP's mom put some aside for the grandkid was above and beyond. She sounds like she was a good person. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Olumi says, not the a-hole. A will is a will. As long as your mother was of sound mind and voluntarily made it, you have 0 obligation to share, particularly given the circumstances. Them acting like this further proves they don't really give a crap about your mother's opinion. Misbehave says, block everyone, sell the house, move away and live your life with your sweet baby. Not the a-hole. Illustrious Horse 276 says, not the a-hole. Your mom knew what was going on. Your sisters knew she only had a small amount of time left. If they had bothered to maintain a relationship with her, maybe it would be different. Your mother also knew that you were going to have an uphill battle with the father of your child dying. She's looking out for her grandchild, as she has done with your sister's children, or possible ones. I'm sorry you had to deal with so much loss in such a short time. It must be really hard. Go no contact with your sisters until after baby is born at least. You've had enough stress already. You do not need any more. I just graduated uni 2 months ago and have been staying over at my boyfriend's place for 2 reasons. 1, so I could find a job since his place is closer to the city, so it's easier to look for a job. 2, because whenever I stayed over at my sister's place, I'd always be the only one doing the chores and cooking. 6 months before I, 21 female, left for my last semester of uni, my older sister, 23 female, had a baby with a guy she'd been seeing from her work. The two of them have been in a situationship for over 2 years, since the guy has a wife and a kid, but still pursued my sister. Neither of them have a stable income. They work in a band. But my sister really wanted to have a baby with him because he told her he'd leave his wife for her. He didn't. Now, I've been asked to help my sister take care of the baby sometimes during the weekend or whenever she has a gig at night. At first, I was fine with it, since I hadn't gotten a job yet and was mostly focused on my crochet business. But it's been getting more frequent, to the point it's been difficult for me to work on my business and find a job, especially since she doesn't pay me for babysitting. This has been an issue for a while now, and I've brought it up to my parents before, but my mom tells me to just deal with it and work it out with my sister. And my dad just thinks it's a pity that my sister has to send her baby to a friend instead of having me babysit. When I brought this up with my sister, she says she doesn't have the money to find a nanny, send her baby to a daycare, or pay me, and that it's sad that I'm asking her to pay me, even though she's told me that she's gotten a lot of money before, but always splurges it on music equipment instead. This time, she asked me to babysit for 5 days, without pay, since her friend who's been staying with her in exchange for babysitting would be out of town. I only agreed to take care of the baby for 2 days this time, because I just got my period and haven't been feeling well. She seemed okay with it, and said the rest of those days she could send the baby to another friend who's helped her before when I was still in uni. Today, I found out she told our parents that I was staying at my boyfriend's place instead of taking care of the baby, even though I did, because I got a text from my mom getting mad at me for refusing to take care of my nephew for the whole week. I told her that I did take care of the baby, and I'm staying at my boyfriend's place during the days I won't be taking care of the baby. Both my parents have been trying to convince me to stay with my sister, just to take care of the baby even more now since we visited them last week. I've told them I don't want to be stuck babysitting a baby when it's not my responsibility, and it's not like she pays me to help her, but they think I'm just being an a-hole. Am I really the a-hole for refusing to stay with my sister to help babysit her baby? Mouse says, "Your sister's made some very bad choices, and she's going to have to face the consequences, alone. She had a baby with a married man while her financial situation was unstable. She'll have to fend for herself. It's nice of you to help out once in a while, but the whole family thinks you're the baby's father. You're not. Even the baby knows it. Your sister complained to your parents because you dared not do her a favor by babysitting for free? How dare you live your life instead of taking care of a baby you didn't decide to bring into the world? Hello? Seriously, her attitude is out of line, and she should be grateful instead of confusing favor with obligation. Step back and let her take the lead. She needs to grow up and take responsibility. Your parents can look after their grandchild instead of forcing you, not the a-hole." Psychological Bit 5422 says, "Why do so many supposed adults go running to mommy and daddy every time a sibling doesn't do what they want? Then mommy and daddy make the put upon sibling to be wrong, because, oh, well, family. Tell your damn sister that she chose to have a baby with a married man. She chose her job, her lifestyle. You didn't. Tell your interfering parents that they can babysit the child, or they can pay for a babysitter. You are not the a-hole, absolutely, but put your foot down and say so." I, 25 female, have a stepsister, Victoria, 26, who is marrying her fiancé Jake early next year. Victoria and I have never been close, but we're civil. Our relationship took dips when we met our respective partners. We both met them through each other, sort of, and there was a lot of kerfluffle each time. But we've since repaired that. That said, I was surprised when she asked me to be a bridesmaid. I didn't really want to, since I live far away and I'm busy in the couple of months leading up to the wedding. But I was so surprised that she asked and thought maybe she didn't have anyone else to ask, since she didn't even seem that pleased about it. So I said yes. A few days ago, Victoria, her mother and other bridesmaids, and I went shopping for the bridesmaid dresses. Victoria was awful to me the whole time. She accused me of choosing dresses to try on to spite her and upstage her. I didn't pick any of the dresses. Her mother and maid of honor did. And every dress I tried on, she nitpicked my appearance in it and made it the reason she didn't want to pick that dress. When one of the sales assistants brought out a dress, Victoria started crying, saying she didn't want to see me in that dress on her wedding day. I was getting a bit fed up, and I was still jet-lagged, so I pulled her aside and asked if she'd rather I just not be a bridesmaid. I said I'd be happy to help with planning in any way I could, but I didn't want her worried or this upset about bridesmaid dresses. Victoria then snapped that she needed me as a bridesmaid because her dad, my stepdad, and Jake wanted me to be one. Apparently for the optics, since Jake's sister is also a bridesmaid, and we're both from families who value the close-knit family image. Her dad is paying for the wedding. I just said, great, neither of us wanted me to be a bridesmaid. I'm out, and I left. Victoria is now blowing up my phone, begging me to be a bridesmaid again. Her dad is furious with the way she treated me and how she told me about him wanting me to be a bridesmaid, and is now being, according to her, very tight on the purse for the wedding. Apparently, she feels that the extended family will also judge her for not having me as a bridesmaid. I told her I'm not doing it, partly because she was awful to me out of resentment for something I didn't know about, and partly because I never wanted to do it in the first place. Victoria says this is going to stop her having her dream wedding. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to do it? The It Guy 1968 says, not the a-hole. Neither of you actually want you to be a bridesmaid, and after this, I would be surprised if you even want to attend the wedding. The real a-hole here is your stepdad. I sort of understand what he was trying to do and wants all parts of the family involved, but forcing your stepsister to ask you and insisting was very wrong. Just tell her you will attend as a guest only. Derp Devil DD says, not the a-hole, but you should talk to your stepfather and tell him while Victoria acted like a petulant child, he had no right to force her on who was in her wedding, and it is your choice whether or not you participate.